All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Thursday, the day before Friday. How is coming in this morning? Good morning. A little cold, or? It's actually not as cold as I thought it was going to be, although, is tomorrow the cold day? Or was today the cold day?
Yeah, tomorrow must be snowy.
Oh, there's snow tomorrow?
Yes.
Oh boy. Let's have a look at the old magic flashing box and see what it says here. -2, okay, it's not that bad. Let's see. Okay, so it's not gonna get colder, but oh yeah, snow, right?
Yeah.
Saturday, Sunday, ooh, and Monday. Interesting. Oh, but we have a 3-day weekend. Oh, okay. I guess it'll be a snowy weekend, for better or for worse. Keep in mind, of course, that we get this Monday off. This Monday is a holiday, it's family day, so be with your family, or if you can't be with them, maybe give them a call and wave at them from Canada. Yeah, let's dive in here. I'll say hi to some people here too. Ryan is here. Good morning, Ryan. Sarah's here. Good morning, Sarah. Abby's here. Good morning, Abby. And Shania's here. Good morning, Shania. And Simrat is here. Good morning. Okay, so yesterday we finished up with ableism and we started talking about sexism. And I said, in this kind of examination of one form of oppression, the sort of oppressive relationship between men and people of other genders, we're going to pay particular attention to kind of social messaging and popular culture and how that kind of feeds into the existence and the sort of perpetuation of sexism. And so in the ableism chapter, we were paying attention to privilege a little more. Now we're going to be looking more at social messaging and popular culture, which may be more fun for you or may not. I guess we'll find out. Yesterday, we started with a few definitions, and it was important for us to talk about these definitions because they're an important way in which we kind of understand and think about ourselves and think about other people, but also kind of misusing the terms or kind of misunderstanding what's happening is part of what leads to stereotypes and prejudice and discrimination and all of that negative things, right? We have to kind of know how to talk about things and kind of understand just what it is we're talking about, right? And so we started kind of at the ground level yesterday with sex, right? The idea that many organisms have a biological sex, us included. Most of us are either males or females, and that's kind of determined by our genetics, our 2 X chromosomes or a X and a Y chromosome. And those genetic differences kind of grow us different bodies, right? And so male bodies are a certain way with a certain set of genitals, and female bodies are a different way with a different set of genitals. But like I mentioned, even though it's very tempting to think of this as a binary opposite, as either one or the other, actually there's quite a number of people who don't perfectly fit into the male category or the female category. And again, this is kind of interesting. There's not a huge number, but there's a percentage that don't fit perfectly into one or the other. And it's kind of important to remember that even in a biological sense, we don't necessarily have 2 perfect, mutually exclusive sexes, right? There's a little bit of gray area. There's a little bit of overlap. But that's particularly evident when we talk about gender. And so gender is something different, right? Gender, we said, is the sort of way that you identify, the way that you feel inside in terms of your gender, but also the sort of social role you perform, right? And so I said here yesterday that, yes, I am a biological male, right? I've had my DNA tested. I have an X and a Y chromosome, just like I should. I have a male body. I feel like I'm a man. My gender identity is that of man, and I am performing that role, right? I am dressing like a man. I am behaving like one according to social rules. At least I hope so. I think if I didn't, people would let me know that I was breaking the rules, but I don't think I am. So all of those things for me in particular are kind of in alignment, right? But gender, again, is a personal identity thing, but it's also a social construct. So a lot of the things that we imagine men and women to be is not necessarily biological. A lot of it is taught, but we'll come to that. The other terms I introduced you to yesterday were cis and transgender. And so cisgender is where your gender identity on the inside and your physical body on the outside are in alignment, right? So I'm a cisgender person, I am a cis man, and so my physical body is that of a male, but that's in alignment with my gender identity, which is also that of a man. But there are people out there for whom those things are not in alignment, right? So they have the body of a man, and yet inside they identify as a woman. They feel like that's their gender identity. Or they feel, or the opposite, or good morning, or they feel like those gender identities don't really work for them, right? They don't feel strongly that they are a man or a woman. They're just a person, right? And so people will sometimes use the word transgender person, trans man, or trans woman, or in some cases they'll use a gender non-binary, right? So I don't identify with one gender or the other. I'm, without gender, or gender fluid, or gender queer, or so there's kind of lots of different experiences and sort of ways in which people can be. And again, we're here in the West, we're actually starting to talk about some of these things. So it's still reasonably new for Western culture to sort of talk about these things and figure them out. And so there's lots of kind of conversations still ongoing about that. Right, this is new for today. So, the other thing we should kind of straighten out here is sexual orientation and sexual identity. Okay, so your sexual orientation has to do with who you desire as a sexual partner. So a man or a woman, or both, or neither. Sexual identity is a little bit different though. Sexual identity is who you express yourself to be, or who you present yourself to society as, okay? So traditionally here in Western society, and still in many societies around the world, there's really only one, well maybe two, sexual identities. You can be straight, right? You can be a straight man, a heterosexual man, or a heterosexual woman. That's all you get. Those are your two available sexual identities. And that's the way it was here kind of in Western culture in decades past. In theory, there was really only one sexual identity available to you. If you tried to express another one, you would get pretty severe discrimination and comments. You might get beat up. All sorts of bad things could happen to you. And in certain parts of the world, those bad things can still happen to you, right? So your sexual identity is what you express to the world, and that's dependent on culture, right? So if I was living here in Canada in 1920, let's say, and let's say I am gay, can I be a gay man in 1920 in Western culture here? Not acceptable. I'm going to get beaten up. I'm going to get discriminated against. It's going to be awful. Right? People are never going to accept me. So what sexual identity do I express? Straight man, right? That's the identity that I pretend to be, right? And so I dress like a regular guy. I sort of try to act like a regular guy. I try to be interested in things that guys are interested in. Maybe I even get married and have a family, but that doesn't really change my sexual orientation, right? I am a gay man, but forced to live a straight identity because society won't accept me for who I am, right? But as I say, those identities can evolve, right? So here in Canada nowadays, gay man is a perfectly acceptable sexual identity. You may express that to the world, right? For the most part. Some people will still discriminate against you. Some people will still be a little weird about it. But for the most part, Canadians have accepted people are gay, people are lesbian. Most Canadians are, very open-minded and accepting towards that. And so the sexual identity of a gay man or a lesbian woman is something you can be without too much fear of discrimination. Okay, so again, your sexual orientation is kind of connected to your biology and the way your mind works and who you desire as sexual partners, but your identity is who you present yourself to be to society. And again, that can depend on what culture says is allowable and not allowable, right? So again, in 1920 in Canada, gay man was not a sexual identity that people could have. But were there gay men?
Yes.
Yeah, there certainly were. Whatever percentage of Canadians are gay now, or are gay men now, probably the same percentage was in 1920, right? But the difference is that you couldn't really be that. And so people had to assume a different sexual identity, right? Even to the point of, marrying a woman and having kids and sort of having a normal straight man life, but yeah, not available. Any questions at the moment?
How many sexual orientations are there?
Well, it's kind of tough to know, right? So there's been a number of kind of studies and discussions, and kind of, I know Alfred Kinsey tried to describe it as a spectrum, right? And so if you kind of figure out your gender, right? So whatever your gender is, are you, heterosexual, so you're only attracted to opposite gender people, or homosexual, are you only attracted to people of the same gender as you? And then there was kind of this spectrum in between. And so people could kind of fall anywhere on that spectrum. They could be either sort of hardcore one side or the other, or they could kind of fit somewhere in the middle. And so, you kind of, maybe a half dozen. So people might describe themselves as heterosexual, as homosexual. They might describe themselves as asexual, so they're not really interested in sexual activity with anyone. Demisexual, where people really, they only desire people as sexual partners that they have built a strong kind of emotional connection with. There's bisexual, which was kind of an older term because it assumes there's only two genders, right? So bisexual means both, you're attracted to both your gender and other genders. Good morning. People are using terms like pansexual now, so you're just attracted to people, not necessarily one gender or the other. Am I missing any? Pan, demi, a, hetero, homo, bi. I think that's about it. But whatever way you kind of want to divide it up, people, people's, the way in which people are sexually attracted to others is not quite so simple as we probably once thought, right? And again, I won't speak for all of your cultures, but here in the West, once upon a time, we had men and women. Men were attracted to women. Women were attracted to men. The end, right? that was how society kind of thought of these things. But it turns out that people are, not shockingly, people are more complicated than that, right? People have different sexual orientations. They're attracted to different genders, different people, maybe sometimes no people at all, maybe sometimes only if they form an emotional connection with that person. Sometimes sexual orientation kind of changes a little bit throughout a person's life. Yeah, these things are more complicated than they once were thought to be. Yeah, so again, just the difference between sexual orientation and identity. Orientation is kind of what's going on inside for you, who you are attracted to. Identity is how you present yourself to society, or how you're allowed to present yourself to society. Oh, good. So I found this cute little diagram, but it's kind of useful, right? Because it demonstrates, or at least it names some of the things that we've already talked about. So people's gender identity, their biological sex, their gender expression, so who they express themselves to be in society, what role are they performing, and then their sexual attraction and their romantic attraction, right? Okay, we're back. Sorry about that if online people, if the stream stopped for a second. I just had some internet issues, but I think we're back now. Okay, so this little diagram is good because, again, it shows a bunch of the things that we've been talking about, and it kind of shows things on a bit of a spectrum, right? So, your biological sex can be, male or, somewhat a mix of two, right? Your gender expression can be strongly masculine or feminine, whatever your culture says is masculine or feminine, but it can also be kind of somewhere more toward the middle. People can be sexually attracted to people of the same gender or of the opposite gender or of all genders, and people can be romantically attracted to different genders as well. So some people are, for instance, sexually attracted to both men and women, but they're only romantically attracted to one gender, right? So they're okay with sexual activity with both, but in terms of a romantic, dating relationship, they're only interested in one gender. And so these things are all kind of separate in a way that they were kind of clumped together in the past, right? So people's biological sex, people's gender identity, people's sexual orientation, people's kind of romantic orientation, all those things were combined together, right? And so when you saw a man or when you saw a woman, you automatically knew all these things about them, right? I see that woman over there, she's into men, she's a woman, open and shut case, right? But again, now we're kind of determining that actually people are much more complicated, and they can have kind of attractions to different genders or the same gender or no genders. They can have different ideas about who they want to be romantically involved with as opposed to sexually involved with. And so people are different. So all of these things are kind of operating a little bit separately, and we can't really assume anything by looking at someone, right? We can't really assume any of these things based on what we're seeing, right? We may see the biggest, muscliest, manliest looking man you've ever seen walking down the street, and really all we know is that, okay, that's the gender he is expressing, right? And probably based on his body, we can probably assume that his sex is male as well, but we can't assume any of these other things about him. Right? We can't assume that his gender identity is male. We can't assume that he is a straight man. We can't assume that he would be romantically interested in women. We just don't know that for sure. Now, the other thing we should say, of course, is that some of these situations are more common than others, right? So probably the most common thing is to be a straight cisgender person who is romantically attracted to the opposite sex, right? That's probably the most common thing you find in society. But again, just because it's most common doesn't mean it describes everyone. And there are lots of people who, again, don't fit perfectly into that straight cisgender kind of situation, okay? What do you think about that? Nothing to talk about there? Okay. Yes. So I have a little exercise that I would like you to do. And the exercise is this. The exercise will involve this alien, okay? And if you watch The Simpsons, you'll recognize this as either Kang or Kodos. I don't know. They both look the same. But this is our alien. And this is an alien that has come to planet Earth here to study humans. And this is a shape-shifting alien, okay? So the alien can shift its shape into that of a man, a human man, or a human woman. Okay, so the alien's job is going to be to change itself into a man or a woman, and then kind of go through human society and kind of study humans and learn about them. Okay, so the alien is going to be able to look perfectly like a human, but it's not going to be able to act like a human because this alien actually comes from a planet where there is no gender. Okay, so it doesn't really know what gender is. It doesn't really know how human men and women behave, and so it needs a few lessons. It needs a few pointers in terms of how to act like a man or how to act like a woman. And if it can sort of convincingly do that, then it will be able to blend into society and, do its studies and learn about humans, right? So our job here is going to be to teach this alien how to be a human man or how to be a human woman, okay? So this is what I'm going to ask you to do for the alien. We won't do groups, we'll just do it kind of individually and then as a class. So step one, I want you to think about rules, okay? So think about if you are, you don't have to use your own gender if you don't want to, but if you are a man, if you are a male, I want you to think of what rules can we give this alien to ensure that it acts like a man in society? How do you act like a man? What do you do? What do you wear? What do you say? How do you express yourself to other people? How do you walk? How do you talk? What kind of things should you be interested in? Like what kind of things should you be able to talk about with other guys? Things like that, okay? And women, same thing. I want you to think about the rules for being a woman. What does this alien need to know in order to convincingly be a woman in society? What rules does it have to follow? How should it dress? How should it talk? How should it walk? What kind of things should it be interested in? What kind of things should it not be interested in? All of these things, okay? Does that sound doable? Women, you're going to have to work extra hard here because I think you're in the minority, But, okay. So what I'd like to do is give you four minutes. Come up with as many rules and ideas and do's and don'ts for this alien as you possibly can, just for one gender. And so if you're a guy, you may find it easier to think about how to be a guy. If you're a girl, you may find it easier to think about how to be a girl, but I won't hold you to it. So take 4 minutes, think about as much as you possibly can, and then we'll talk about it, okay? Go. Sorry, I had it on mute again. So yeah, so we're talking about rules for how to act like a woman. Online people, online women, if you want to put some answers in the live chat there, we can have them come up on screen and we can get lots of these things going on. So yeah, so clothing, we've got to find women's clothing, loose enough to show you're a woman, but no, tight enough to show you're a woman, but loose enough to show that you're a lady. Okay, what else?
I know it's kind of completely off this, but the alien should pay a lot of attention to any sort of racial, etiquette, and etiquette makeup.
Okay, so the alien here, so you to act like a woman, the alien's going to have to pay attention to its personal grooming habits at a much higher level than men, right?
Yes.
So face, eyebrows,
Body hair.
hair on the head, nail beds, nails, feet. All of those details are going to have to be looked after, right? What else?
The way you sit, the way you walk.
Okay, how does a woman sit? How are we going to teach this alien how a woman sits? Am I sitting like a woman now?
No.
No? Okay, this is not a woman. Okay. How does the alien sit like a woman?
I don't understand. The way women sit, that's to be appealing to the male gaze.
Oh, interesting. So, okay, there's this male gaze apparently, right? So you have to present yourself in a way that is appealing to men, even in the way that you sit in a chair.
It's subconscious.
It's subconscious for women?
It's not like a rule. Sits with really good in man and women. It goes unsaid.
What? That's okay. Even if the rule is not explicit, if people are following it, it still counts, right? So, okay, how should this woman sit? I don't know. So,
Legs together.
okay, legs together,
You could either cross like this on top or cross underneath.
like no, like that,
Yeah.
or
Or no, the other way.
the other like. Okay, what's that?
Like this on the wearing top.
Oh, okay, just like that, but the legs stay together,
Yeah.
right? There's no like, right? No sitting like that. Okay. What else? What else do I need to what else do I need to know here to be a woman? Yeah. So Abby says pay attention to body language. So yeah. So how you. Yeah, I think maybe that's connected to what you were saying, Nasra, about the male gaze, and that there are maybe more eyes on you as a woman, and so maybe you have to pay more attention to your appearance, but also to the way that you carry yourself, right? The way you kind of walk through the world. What else?
The way you talk.
Okay.
Be aggressive.
Okay, so women should speak in a particular way, right? So obviously the alien will have a woman's voice, it can do that, but how it uses that voice is important, right? And so don't be too aggressive. What else do you mean by that? Don't be rude. Define rude. Or do you just mean in general?
You know, like anything somebody probably won't agree with. You know what I mean?
Oh, so women should be careful not to offend people, even maybe more so than the average person. Because I think we could say that it's good to not offend people if you can avoid it, right? That's a good human rule of thumb. But maybe women have to go more out of their way not to be nice, maybe. What else? Maybe more on the voice. Abby says here, be nimble when doing something. Yeah, there's kind of women are supposed to be graceful, are they not? Supposed. Yeah, they're supposed to be graceful, which is one of the things that Sinead Burke was talking about yesterday in her TED Talk, right? Women are expected to be graceful, but when she sits in a chair, it's not graceful because the chair is too big for her, right? And she has to crawl into it like a kid, right? That's That's not graceful. Women are expected to be nimble, like gazelles or something. I don't know. Anything else about the voice? How women speak? Things that they say?
And I think the more should be tenderly.
They should be what?
They more what is this tender?
Tender, did you say?
Yeah.
Oh, tender.
Yeah. So women are expected to be kind of like maybe soft and tender and compassionate and understanding, maybe more so than men. Abby says here, oh yeah, their voices should be kind of lighter intonations and relatively higher voices, right? So yeah, you're expected to have a higher voice. It's supposed to be kind of light and right? Something, I don't know. What else? Those are all good. What else? Other rules for being a woman?
Maybe the culture norms of ways.
Yes, and that's kind of what I'm asking. What are those norms?
Most of the cultures have different beliefs for men and ladies.
Exactly.
The way they behave, like you shouldn't go on whenever they're marrying someone, ladies are not allowed to go. I think in Muslims.
Okay, well, I'm just kind of talking about like our, our sort of general experience. What should women be like? Obviously, there's differences, between cultures, but we're just, we're just kind of assuming some sort of general culture between us, even though that's not entirely true. But yeah, what should women be like?
You could say most of the ones are more innocent.
What does that innocence mean to you?
Such like they're more innocent than men.
Yes, but what does that innocent mean? Like they haven't committed any crimes, or
Yes.
okay? But what else do you mean by that? Because I think you're right. I'm just trying to pull it apart a little bit. It's probably a good idea not to commit any crimes. Any of us. That's probably a good rule. What does it mean? Do you guys agree with that? That women are expected to have some sort of innocence? And if so, what does that mean? Nasra, you're kind of shaking your head.
With what type of innocence?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. Like a sexual innocence, or almost like innocent in the way that children are. Like because children are innocent, right? Children are a little bit naive. They don't know how the world works. They're a little bit silly sometimes. Are women expected to be that way?
They're not expected to be that way. Men just like explaining things for no good reason.
So Nasser says it's not that they're expected to be innocent or naive. It's just that men like explaining things to women, which is sometimes true. I have to be careful of that actually in real life, because I spend so much of my day explaining things. I have to be very careful, that like with my girlfriend, I don't switch into that explaining mode, because that's just kind of what I do. So yeah, but that's true, right? So maybe okay. What else are women expected to be, or do, or think, or be interested in?
Attractive.
Okay. Well, I think that's I think it's as a woman, you are expected to pay a lot of attention to your appearance, right? The hair, the makeup, your clothing, your shoes, the nails, the whole thing, right? There's a lot of things to pay attention to potentially as a woman. I think it's probably, everybody likes an attractive person, so I think we could say that is among all genders, it's nice when somebody looks good, but there's a lot of attention that needs to be paid to to those things, right? Should you moisturize as a woman? Take care of your skin?
You should do that as a man.
You should. Guys, do you moisturize? Exfoliate, moisturize before bed? No? You just like flop into bed and fall asleep? Terrible. What kind of things should women be interested in? Cooking? Cleaning?
Stitching.
Stitching? Yoga? What else? What else? What kind of things do women talk about?
Am I not a woman? Why are these questions so hard?
What's that? Why are these questions so hard? Well, these questions are hard for a couple of reasons. Number one, I'm very much putting you on the spot here. But number two, most of us have absorbed social messages about how to be a woman or how to be a man. And we just act them out. We follow the rules all the time without even thinking about it, right? And so part of the reason why it's hard is that, again, a lot of these rules haven't been taught to you directly. You've just absorbed them because you've spent your entire life observing people around you, either family members or friends or people at school or people on television or in movies, and you have absorbed these ideas of what men and women are like. And so you're kind of acting out your role based on all of those things that you have absorbed, right? All of those lessons you've learned from all of those other people. And so, yeah, it's hard sometimes because nobody has actually given you the rule book. Here's the rule book of womanhood. Congratulations. Nobody does that, right? And so, yeah, sometimes they're hard to extract. But let's flip over and let's talk about men for a while. What are the rules of being a man? What should a man be, and how should a man act, and what should men do? What are the rules of manhood?
Be strong. Fix things.
Okay, so men should be strong. Are you talking physically strong? Or like emotionally strong? They're not emotionally strong? What a bunch of crybabies. So definitely physical strength for sure. They should have some skills. You want men with skills to fix things, mechanical things. What else? What else should men be like?
You have to have beard and mustache.
Oh, okay. So facial hair is apparently, luckily I'm okay in that department. Facial hair maybe is useful for communicating masculinity. Should drink beer apparently. Drinking beer is a masculine thing to do. What else? How to be a man?
You don't wear pink clothes.
Okay, no pink clothes really. Pink is often, at least in Western culture, is often associated with women, not exclusively. I have a pink shirt. I don't wear it very often, but I have one. It's more of a summer thing. But I have a pink shirt. I can wear it. It's fine. But it's true. There are certain colors that are more, that women wear more often, and there's certain colors that men wear more often, right? What kind of colors do men wear?
Black or blue.
Black, blue,
Brown.
brown, green, kind of earth tones, right? More kind of darker, more natural colors, right? Women, of course, they wear those colors as well, but they can wear lighter colors, right? Especially in summer when it's nice out. Pink, yellow, right? Light blue, all of these kind of nice colors that women can wear. Men are generally expected to wear something a little more darker, a little more kind of natural, right? And again, I'm not saying anything is right or wrong, I'm just saying it's what people do. What else?
You need to like sports.
Okay, you need to be into sports. What else should you be into?
Crazy.
Fighting, right? Like fighting with other people, or like watching MMA, or both? Okay, so you should be into MMA, or you should be into like watching people fight, or maybe you even fight sometimes yourself. What else?
Short hair.
Okay, so guys generally have short haircuts, right? Although, yeah, there's, yeah, some guys can pull off the long hair pretty well. Harry Styles, I'm looking at you. But yeah, so generally shorter hair, but some guys can get away with longer hair. What else?
You should be intelligent in your relationship.
Intelligent in the relationship? What does that mean to you?
And not be rude.
That's an unsaid rule.
No, did you say not? Did you say not be ruled?
Rude.
Oh, don't be rude. Okay, I think that's probably a cross-gender thing. If you're in a relationship, you should, try your best to be nice and intelligent and, responsive to the other person. I think that's probably a universal. What else? Pay the bills. Okay, so is the man expected to be like a provider? Is the man expected to bring home the bacon, quote unquote? Is the man supposed to be kind of the head of the household and the one who's kind of making the money and providing for his family? Is that kind of a rule? What's that? Stereotypical, absolutely. But, stereotypes have an effect on people. So if it is a stereotype, can I press pause on this for a second? Guys, if you feel comfortable, online guys too, if you feel comfortable answering this question, imagine, I'm assuming your sexual orientation here, so just go with me on this. But imagine in 15 years or so, you're married and you and your wife are both working. You both have careers of some sort, you're both working, everyone's doing okay. But your wife makes more money than you do. Like significantly more. Like a good $50,000 to $60,000 a year more than you make. Are you okay with that? Mulder, you're okay with that? Why are you okay with that? Okay. Daniel, you said no. Why not? There's no right or wrong answers here. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, you have been taught, as have I, and as have many men around the world, probably most men around the world, have been taught that they're the one who's supposed to be the provider, right? They're the one who's supposed to be in control. They're the one who's supposed to kind of, to provide for their family. And so that idea, thinking about that is weird, right? It's like, oh man, like, what would that be like if my wife made a lot more money than me, right? What do you think?
I think it's better because life quality is better.
Definitely, right? More money coming into the household would mean a better quality of life for everyone, right? So it's a huge plus, but I'm saying, do you trip over that cultural idea that you should be something, that you should be doing something? Can I also ask women, how would you feel? How do you feel about either of those scenarios? So imagine, again, I'm assuming your sexual orientation here, forgive me. Imagine 15 years, you're married to some guy, and let's say he makes $60,000 a year more than you do. How do you feel about that? Or how do you feel about the opposite, where you make more than he does? How does that feel? Don't think it matters? Doesn't matter? Do you think that you might have less respect for him if he made less money than you? Like significantly less?
If you're in a relationship which has true love, maybe money doesn't matter. But unless the guy has some ego issues.
Right. So there's the potential for kind of an ego issue, right? Hopefully, if you guys really care about each other and you're contributing and you're a team, maybe it doesn't matter. Money always matters, unfortunately, until we arrive in a world where money doesn't mean anything anymore. There's always a thing. But do you respect him any less? You're not just going to dump everything into one pile and separate.
No, it's like one thing, like say I'll pay the bills of the house, you do the groceries.
Right. Right. Okay. So as long as he's holding up his end, right? But that's tricky, right? Because if you're married to some guy and you make $200,000 a year and he makes 50, let's say he's a teacher. If he makes 50, then how are you gonna figure out who gets to spend, fun money, right? Because he can probably, pay for the groceries and you can probably pay for the mortgage, but he's not gonna have very much money left over at the end of the day, whereas you're gonna have a lot of money left over. So how does that get split up? Do you get all the pretty things and then he just doesn't get anything that he wants, or?
I mean, you're a man, like what do you want? We can talk about it. We can talk about it.
I don't know. We there's always stuff that we want to buy. Maybe they're not pretty, but we have things, right? We have things we want. Okay. What other stuff? What else should a man be, or do, or act like? What's that? You're supposed to smell differently?
Yes.
How should a man smell? So if a man goes into the bathroom, has a shower, does all the things that he needs to do, what should he come out smelling like? A man. What does that smell?
Cream.
Shaving cream. What kind of smell is that?
We men all smell the same.
We do?
It's
What-
like a certain man.
So certain scents are manly, right? Certain smells are manly, right? So maybe smells like leather, right? Or something like spicy or kind of like musky, woody sort of that yeah, it's hard to describe, like, cologne and scents like that. It's hard. Like I know what shaving cream smells like men's shaving cream. I know what it smells like. I don't know how to describe it, but it's a manly smell. What's a feminine smell then? Strawberries.
Watermelon.
Too young. What else?
Watermelon, flowers.
Flowers.
Yeah.
Right? Vanilla, maybe, right? There's lots of perfumes that kind of smell like vanilla. Sweet things, right? So women are supposed to smell sweet and flowery, right? Men are supposed to smell kind of bold and rugged, whatever. However that smell, however you can imagine that. What else? What about in terms of dating? How are men supposed to act or behave? Dominant. So man is kind of the hunter. Man does the chasing.
I mean, to each their own.
To each their own. Yeah, obviously. But we're just talking about cultural rules. We don't have to. Not everyone follows them. What else? So men are expected to be dominant. They're sort of the chaser. They're the pursuer, if you will. What about, maybe this is the last question I'll ask you and then we'll take a break. What about kind of emotional displays of emotions? What emotions can men show and which ones can they not show?
You can show anger
Okay.
and happiness.
That's it? So as men, we get to be angry or happy. That's all. So which emotions then can we not show?
Fear.
Fear? Being upset or crying or being vulnerable, right? Nobody wants to see The Rock cry, right? That's hard to watch, right? So contrast that with women. What emotions are women not allowed to express? Anger, right? At least not the kind of full-on Hulk rage that men are allowed to express. What kind of emotions are women allowed to express? Or are they encouraged to express? Yeah. Like which ones? All of them. Okay, so women have a much kind of greater, they have greater permission in society to express their feelings, right? If women feel joyful or happy or kind of giddy and silly or sad or kind of, vulnerable or hurt or all of these things, they get to show all those things. But men seem to have a much narrower definition of the emotions that they can express, right? And like Nasra said, it's kind of like very minor variations of angry and happy, right? That's all you get to show. Men aren't really encouraged to be vulnerable or sad or hurt or silly or giddy, right? Or any of those things, right?
Just to say, men, don't, it's okay to cry. We won't judge you. And you can be goofy.
Are you sure you won't?
Yeah, I won't judge you. Shoulder, right here.
Right there, there's the shoulder. Okay. So guys, it's okay. You can overcome that cultural stereotype. You can cry sometimes. Yeah. See, this is progress. This is healing. Okay. This is good so far. Take a little break, come back. We'll do a little bit more with this and then we'll continue on, okay? So good work so far. So, I asked you to do kind of a very simple exercise, which was to teach this simple alien how to act like a man or a woman in society. And it's kind of, everybody with me? I feel like everyone's looking down at screens. Scotty, are you with me? Okay. So, I asked you to do this very simple exercise, and in some ways it is simple, but again, in some ways it's not, right? Because, again, there are actually lots of rules that have to go with gender, right? There's a lot of ways in which you have to present yourself to society, ways you have to groom yourself, dress yourself, walk, sit, behave, things you're supposed to be interested in, ways you're supposed to dress and speak, ideals in terms of what you should achieve in your life and what you should like, and should you bring home more money than your partner, and who should be in charge, and all of these things are kind of cultural lessons that we absorb, and sometimes they're difficult to kind of list out because, again, we've absorbed them without really knowing, right? And so I just wanted to throw up a couple things on the screen here. I know those are going to be kind of difficult to read, but this is what we came up with the last time we did this class. And so, again, I know it's kind of very tiny and difficult to read, but some of the things that we see, some of the things that we suggested are actually coming up here, right? In terms of strength and confidence, walking around like a man. We talked about sitting for women, not so much for men, but of course, men should not sit in a girly way, quote unquote, whatever that means. Deep voice, facial hair, we got that. Wearing dark colors. There's beer, we got beer. Maybe action movies, we talked about fighting, being interested in MMA and things like that. And in dating, men are the pursuer, right? Whereas women have a lot of rules as well. And what's kind of interesting about women is that a lot of those rules have to do with appearance, right? So men have some kind of general rules about appearance and how they should look, but women have kind of a lot more, right? They're required to kind of present themselves to society in a particular way. And so there's lots of makeup and hair concerns and skin concerns and manicures and pedicures and fashion and clothing and all kinds of things, right? And that doesn't even get to the body language, how women are supposed to walk, how women are supposed to sort of speak and present themselves. There's actually a lot of rules, right? A lot of rules. And so one of the things I want to point out here is that, number one, well, actually, I'm going to go back. If we look at these rules for being a man or being a woman, how many do you think are really connected to our biology? How many of them do you think are hardwired into us? Most of them are taught, right? Most of what it is to be a man or what it is to be a woman is taught to you. The question is, this is from a previous class here, but how many of these do you think, which rules or aspects of being a man or a woman have a biological basis, or are they all taught? What's that? Facial hair, right? So obviously men grow facial hair naturally and women don't, although you can shave it, but it's a lot of work and razor blades are expensive. What else? Things that are biological. Any of them? Some of them? I think we said men should be strong, and kind of on average, men are larger and stronger than women on average. What's that? Oh, the deep voice, yeah. The deep voice is a natural thing, right? After puberty, our voice gets a little bit lower for women as well, but mostly for men, right?
Where's manly, dude?
What's what?
Smoke, but in a manly way.
Smoke in a manly way.
It's manly.
I don't know.
They're picking them.
Like a cigar, right? Right? You gotta smoke like a man, not like a woman. I don't know. These aren't mine. These are students came up with these.
Go to the bathroom in groups.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about bathroom rules, right? So, guys, when you go to the bathroom, if you're out somewhere, do you go to the bathroom with all your guy friends? If you all need to go, but
But
what's the stereotype about women?
Women bathrooms are usually cleaner, so
Okay, what does that have to do with
yeah,
anything?
what's the correlation?
they would be more willing to go with their friends. And I usually just stay outside because the bathroom is so delicate.
That is true. I would submit that men's washrooms are probably not as clean as women's washrooms. But is that the reason that we're staying outside? Could be. Okay, so if you guys go into the washroom and there's those like the urinals against the wall if you've got to pee, and let's say there are 4 of them. Okay, there's 4 urinals on the wall, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you come in. Which one do you choose? There's nobody there. The end one? Okay. So you choose the one at the end. Let's say you come in to the bathroom and there's another guy at a urinal and he's at one end. Where do you go? Other end, right? What if you come in and there's 4 urinals and there's one guy at one end and one guy at the other? Where do you go? Wait. But there's two open stalls. There's 2 open urinals. You could just go and pee there. Why do you not pee there? That's what they're for. What?
It's awkward.
Why?
Why, man? I don't know.
Why is it awkward?
Urinals aren't as private as like dogs.
Urinals are definitely not as private as the cubicle, right, where the toilets are, right? Sometimes urinals have a little bit of a shield beside them, right? Sometimes they have a little divider, sometimes not. But interesting, right? So we have this stereotype of women going to the bathroom in groups, even when maybe not everyone has to go at the moment. And then there's this other thing where men go into a bathroom and try to create as much physical distance as they possibly can between them and other guys. What's the thing? Why is everyone so freaked out? Because size matters. Well, maybe it does, but are you allowed to go looking at other guys' stuff? No, right? And in fact, I almost think that's the fear, right? The fear is that people will look at your stuff. But has that ever happened to you? Nobody's ever looked at my stuff in a washroom, ever. Yet, there seems to be some kind of fear of this happening, right? And even though if someone did look, you'd probably say, "Hey, eyes on the wall, pal," right? But yeah, exactly, right? But it is interesting. There seems to be this level, and people are laughing now. There seems to be this level of discomfort, right? Now, women, if I could put you on the spot for a second here, do you feel like when you go into a women's washroom, do you feel any of that level of kind of discomfort or tension amongst the women in that washroom? What's the vibe? What's the feeling in there?
That was so nice. You're just minding your business. You gotta go, you gotta go. You gotta look at your reflection, you look at your reflection. If you want to borrow some lip gloss, go ahead. You know what I mean?
Oh, so that sounds like a much more friendly. It sounds like a much more friendly atmosphere in there, right? In the guys, it's all very like standoffish, and everybody's like weird, right? Everybody's got to pee, Everybody pees the same. What's the discomfort? But the discomfort is there, right? Weird. But still, social rules are social rules, and so I recognize that the urinal rule is ridiculous, but I follow it. I mean, I go to the side, right? So I go to the one side or the other side, and if those are full, I go into a stall. So that's the rule, right? That's how it works. It's silly and it's ridiculous, but those are the rules. Right. So we have all these rules. I wanted to point out to you that there's many, many more, right? This is just the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, in terms of social rules that have to do with being a man or being a woman. But regardless of what our gender is, and regardless of what kind of culture and society we've been born into, all societies have these rules, right? And they're going to expect us to follow them, right? So we're going to be socialized in terms of how to be a man or how to be a woman, and we're going to be encouraged to follow those norms and those rules. And if we don't follow them, there's going to be social punishments, right? Just like we talked about earlier. Now, to explore this more, to talk about this more, I have a documentary to show you, but I don't want to start now because we've got just a few minutes left. So I think I may leave it there, and then tomorrow we can pick up this documentary, talk about it, and maybe have an interesting conversation about gender and sexuality and socialization and all that stuff. So I'll leave it here for today. Tomorrow, that's what we will do. Okay? All right. So that is it. Have a nice rest of the morning, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.